What's up? It's Chris with Subliminal Acquisition. And in this video, I want to introduce you to a concept that can help you get more clients, more high quality clients, repeat clients. You can work faster, you can work longer, and you can basically save money and make more money and get more mixed clients, and everyone's happy, right? So this concept is basically the idea of activation energy, right? So what do I mean by that? It's basically a threshold of how difficult it is to start a task, right? Now, if you open up a mix from scratch, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to tell you how to work. I'm just here to introduce you to the concept. And you're not using a template or anything, then you're going from absolutely nothing. Now, that might actually be the most efficient and effective way for you personally to work, and that's totally fine. I'm open to that. But for other people, it might be a lot more effective and efficient and smooth and quick for them to actually have some kind of template. So I'm not here to tell you about the delivery and how to actually do the mixing and mastering, but I am here to help you with the ideas surrounding client acquisition and how to get clients and how to get repeat clients. So you might be thinking about making a YouTube video or something, right? So for me, I used to think so long and hard about YouTube videos, and okay, that's cool. You might actually have a little bit of a better video if you do that, or if you just reduce the activation energy, then it's a lot easier for you to make a video. So for example, I used to make slides and all this stuff, and I'm not really a huge fan of that. If I'm being honest, I was only doing that just to do the videos. But if you don't really like it, then you're probably not going to make very good versions of that. But what I do like is rants, and I also like writing down on paper. So sometimes I might just like have some notes like this that I'll just write with a pen, and that's totally fine. And I can still get you a ton of value without a lot of activation energy. I don't have to put in a ton of work up front other than the actual studying and the working with clients and the reading and the working and building stuff and so on and so forth. So all that stuff, like if I'm working on some kind of program, then that program is going to be drilled into my head so deeply that all of those concepts are just kind of there for me, ready to go, and I can just kind of play with them. And if I'm thinking about client acquisition for mix and master engineers all day, then that's also something that's going to come easy to me. I'm just going to be able to easily talk about that. So the activation energy or the activation threshold, how can you reduce this? Let's think of some practical ways for you to reduce this. So when you're looking at getting clients, and we think of the first part of your critical client flow, I'm going to talk about that in probably the next video. I'll talk about how to set up a critical client flow for your mixing and mastering services. When you're talking about attention, right? So you might have to send some kind of DM, you might have to send a message, you might have to reach out to someone, you might have to hit up an old lead or ask someone, a previous lead, if they know someone. Okay, cool. So let's say you're hitting up someone who's already done a project with you, and you want to kind of start that conversation going again and ask if they know anyone who might be interested. Okay, so it's going to be a lot better if you have something up front. If you have something up front, like you thought deeply about a referral program where that person is incentivized, so your previous client is incentivized to look for other clients for you, and the new client is incentivized to come into your critical client flow, so to speak, and potentially become a new client and hopefully a recurring client and buy a ton of mixes off you, right? So if you spend some focused time working on a referral program and thinking about that incentive structure, then whenever you actually reach out in the future and you want to kind of replicate that, it's a lot easier for you because you already know exactly what to do. You've already thought about it up front. You know, like what your genre is and how you work and how you like to work and the kind of prices you charge and so on and so forth. And that's all going to go a lot more smoothly than if you just try to come up with something randomly, haphazardly every time you message someone that you've already serviced, right? You've already given a mix to. So another example would be, again, I've already given the example of this video, right? There's no slideshow. There's no crazy amount of notes or anything. And in fact, in this video, I'm not even going off notes. This is just straight off the dome, but this was an idea that came to me. If I just sit down and I have the webcam, that's a lot easier for me to upload this video than if I were to use a camera, a DSLR or something. And even that small thing is just part of the signal chain, so to speak, that makes things a lot smoother and a lot faster for me to actually upload a video. And those things add up over time. If you think about it, I talked in a couple of videos ago about signal chain thinking and thinking about your client acquisition just like you think about a mixing or mastering chain, like for example, a vocal chain. If you have a compressor on that, it might not be doing a ton of compression, might be like 1 or 2 dBs, but it adds up if you add a couple of compressors in a row, a few compressors in a row, and then maybe you, I don't know, do some kind of pitch correction, whatever. Like these small tweaks throughout your mix really add up to a massive difference in the end. So like gain is a good one to think about. So if you're thinking about gain, little tweaks and little increases and decreases in gain throughout the mix are going to have a massive cumulative effect or aggregate effect at the very, very end of the process. And that can make or break a mix, right? Is gain staging and levels and so on, right? So you want to think about the same kind of thinking when it comes to this, right? Like if I film on a DSLR, it's gonna slow things down even just a little bit versus using a webcam. Now the granularity or the resolution might be a little bit lower. Okay, that's fine. Like you're not really too worried about how this video looks versus the actual value that you're getting. So when you're making YouTube videos, I definitely recommend that every mix engineer, master engineer, producer has some kind of YouTube channel or some kind of social content schedule. If you're doing all these edits and all these fancy demonstrations and all this stuff, and it's way too much, you're gonna be disincentivized from making those things. Now, there might be a sweet spot. If you like to do those things and you can kind of grind at a certain level, for example, Rob Late is really good at these. He has pretty intricate edits for his videos, and he'll do some really, really cool videos. I definitely recommend that you check out his videos. But for me, and what I would recommend, I think it's a little bit too high of an activation energy to really do as consistently unless you're making that whole thing a full-time job. If that's your main content strategy, then I actually think that's probably fine. But if you're just doing shorts on top of like a long form, and you're doing a ton of editing on your long form already or all this stuff, then it's really difficult, especially if you're servicing clients and you're already kind of in the weeds of business and you have a lot of different projects within that business, right? So you have like outbound, there may be DM, you're doing some stuff on different platforms, maybe sound better and so on. And you're getting your demos, ready for demonstrations and so on. I mean, it can be very difficult to do so much in all these different areas. So you kind of got to pick your battles, if that makes sense. You don't want to necessarily overdo it in any of these areas. You want to reduce the activation energy and be like, what's the easiest way I can do this? Now, I'm not saying cheap out on quality. Say I'm using a webcam, use a nice webcam. Say you're using some kind of, I don't know, DM strategy and you're doing voice notes, well, speak properly when you're doing it. Like, don't just, you send a 5-second voice note and be all sloppy with your speech and so on. Do it properly, but find out where that nice medium is like where you kind of are getting quality and quantity at the same time. My mentor, Charlie Morgan, would talk about quality. It's kind of I think it's a word he came up with. And it's basically you want not just quantity and not just quality. You want a lot of both, but there's kind of nice middle ground. Like if you're super, super high on quality, then it's going to be very difficult to, if you're trying to release a 2.5-hour Denis Villeneuve epic every week on YouTube, it's going to be very, very difficult, especially if you're doing other things. And if you're trying to message 1,000 people every day, you're not going to be able to do like a custom video or a voice note or something like that. So basically you want to consider the activation threshold, the action threshold, the activation energy, whatever you want to call it, for that specific thing that you're doing. So maybe consider it in your workflow. So you could potentially use templates or something like that. Have maybe your digital workstation open as soon as you open your computer, certain things like that. If you look on my computer, I have no applications or anything on the background, anything like that. I am recording into a webcam, and that's going straight to Loom as soon as I do this, and then I can just download that video and put it straight on YouTube. Super easy. It used to take me hours to make YouTube videos. Now it takes me basically as long as it takes to do a little bit of preparation, do the actual filming, which I'm mostly improvising, if not fully improvising, and then uploading it, like maybe a slight edit that I can do within the application, and then the upload. So all of those things are definitely things you want to consider throughout your workflow, throughout your process, because you're not just a mix and master engineer, you're a business owner. And business owners are in the marketing business, whether you like it or not. You are in the lead gen business. You are in the sales business. Like, you are in sales. You are in marketing, whether you like it or not. You have to do some kind of outbound or inbound marketing, and you have to do some kind of sales. You have to do some kind of service delivery, or else if you're doing the other things and you're not doing service delivery, you're a total scammer. But if you are, you basically are responsible for every part of the chain. You have to get their attention. They have to inquire about your services. You have to have a conversation and some kind of sale or some kind of exchange of money. And, they give you files and so on. I guess that would be more in onboarding. And then you have to do something with the money. Then you would onboard them, I would say. And you have to, get their files and, figure out the situation with their tracks and so on. And then you have to actually deliver the thing, actually mix and master the track. And then you have to give them the track. And then you have to, you don't have to. A lot of people don't do this. They fail on this. But ideally, you would have some kind of referral program, some kind of testimonial SOP, standard operating procedure, where they give you a testimonial, and then continue from there. And hopefully they give you referrals, they do some repeat business, they give you testimonials and so on, and really just make your business stronger and stronger and stronger. So you're getting a ton of mixed clients, master clients, production clients, whatever is your drug of choice, so to speak. And you're just living the dream, making a ton of money, making beautiful art, helping people, really kind of becoming the linchpin in your niche, in your genre, in your, whether it's in your local community or in an online community, and you're really just winning. So that's kind of my little rant on activation energy, or the activation threshold, action thresholds. And if you want to learn more about this kind of thinking, about really how to get high quality, high quantity clients for your mixing and mastering services, hit the link in the description or the top comment below, and see if you qualify for a free consultation, a discovery call where we just chat about your services and your business. And we'll develop a strategy for how you can get to the next level. It will be either with me or a member of my team. And we'll try to figure out a way to get you a ton of great mixing and mastering clients, so that you don't even know what to do with them at that point. So that's it for this video. Click the link if you're interested. I'm not gonna cry if you're not. And peace.